November 5, 1975. Apache Sitgreaves National Forest, Arizona. 6:12 p.m. The sun was setting fast. The trees towered like black pillars against the fading light, and the air smelled like diesel, pine, and sawdust. 7 men were heading home in a battered 1965 International pickup after a long day of logging work. But only 6 of them would make it home that night. The 7th, Travis Walton, 22 years old, would vanish. Not into the forest, not into thin air, but into something much worse. Something glowing, humming, alive. Who was Travis Walton? He wasn't special. Not at first glance. A young logger from Snowflake, Arizona, tall, lean, scruffy. The kind of guy who could vanish into the American landscape and no one would notice. He worked hard, drank hard, kept mostly to himself, had a temper and a soft spot for girls with wild eyes. That day, he'd been running a chainsaw all afternoon, clearing brush on a government timber contract near Turkey Springs. The rest of the crew were Mike Rogers, the crew boss and Travis's future brother-in-law. Alan Dallas, hot-tempered and suspicious of everyone. John Goulet, quiet, serious. Kenneth Peterson, steady. Steve Pierce, 17, nervous. Dwayne Smith, distant. They all saw it. What took him? The light in the trees. As the pickup bounced down the dirt road that night, heading home, the men noticed something strange in the forest. A glow through the pines. Orange. Pulsing. Too bright for fire. Too still for headlights. Mike slowed the truck. Travis leaned forward. They thought it was a plane crash. Maybe a forest fire. But as they got closer, they saw it. A disc hovering 20 feet off the forest floor. Glowing. Metallic. Dead silent. About 40 feet across. I felt it before I heard it, Mike would later say. A pressure in your chest, like your heartbeat didn't belong to you anymore. Then Travis did something no one else would have done. He got out. It looked like it was waiting. Travis approached the object. Slowly, carefully. The others screamed at him to stop. He didn't. The disc hung there, humming like a high-tension wire. Then it shifted, lowered slightly, rotated just a few degrees toward him. Then it hit him. A sudden beam of blue light erupting from the craft struck Travis square in the chest. He didn't cry out, didn't fall. He flew, lifted off the ground like a puppet with its strings cut, then slammed down hard, motionless. He's dead, Alan shouted. Mike hit the gas. They fled. They left him there. We didn't just run, we were pushed. The men sped off in a frenzy, barely speaking. Just breathing. Just shaking. Just surviving. But after a few miles, Mike stopped the truck. We can't leave him, he said. The others didn't want to go back. But they did. Travis was gone. The clearing was empty. No light. No craft. No body. Just scorched pine needles where he'd stood. And silence. Horrible silence. The call to the sheriff. At 7:30 p.m., Mike Rogers walked into the Snowflake Sheriff's office and told Deputy Ellison that a man had been taken. Not kidnapped. Taken. By a UFO. Ellison thought they were drunk. Or crazy. Or covering up a murder. But over the next 2 hours, something unnerved him more than their story. They didn't change it. Not once. 7 witnesses. Same details. Same terror in their eyes. They weren't lying, Ellison would later say. They looked like they'd seen the devil. The search. By midnight, the forest was crawling with deputies, dogs, volunteers. No sign of Travis. No blood. No struggle. Just the scorched earth. And the strange metallic smell no one could explain. The dogs refused to approach the site. They whimpered, snapped their leashes, and ran. The polygraph tests. Sheriff Gillespie called in professional examiners. One by one, the crew took polygraph tests. Mike, Alan, Steve, Ken, Dwayne, John, all passed. Except Alan, whose result was inconclusive. Not failed. Just unreadable. The examiner's final report. These men are telling the truth. If they killed him, they don't know it. 5 days later, on the night of November 10th at 12:05 a.m., a phone rang at Travis's brother's house. A weak voice on the line. This is Travis. I'm at a gas station. I need help. They found him slumped by a payphone 30 miles from where he vanished. Thin, weak, confused, naked, and terrified. They weren't human. At first, Travis couldn't remember. Then it came in flashes. The beam of light. The pain. The ceiling of soft gray metal. Eyes too big, too black. They looked like insects pretending to be people, he said. He was on a table. Paralyzed. Cold. They did things to him, things he couldn't describe without shaking. Later, other beings came in. Human-looking. Silent. Their faces wrong. They wore blue suits and stared at him with eyes that didn't blink. He remembered screaming. He remembered darkness. He remembered a sensation of being uploaded. They weren't asking questions, he said. They were looking for something inside me. But that wasn't the scariest part. The scariest part? I wasn't alone in there, he whispered. Something else was already screaming. Travis Walton reappeared 5 days after his abduction. But he didn't come back unchanged. He was weaker, paler, older. His eyes seemed unfocused, like he was staring at something behind the world. And sometimes, in mid-sentence, he'd stop and tilt his head as if listening to something no one else could hear. I came back, he said. But I think part of me didn't. And maybe something else did. I don't feel like I'm me anymore. Travis was examined by doctors. No injuries. No dehydration. No bruising. Just a strange red triangle-shaped rash on his arm. Blood work came back normal, mostly. But something was wrong with his melatonin cycles. His body thought it had been gone for weeks, one doctor said. But his brain didn't know how long it had been. At night, Travis would scream. He'd dream of the lights, the walls, and of being inside someone else's body like a puppet being worn from the inside out. I don't remember sleeping, he said. I remember being observed. The men's start to fracture. Back in Snowflake, the logging crew wasn't celebrating. They were unraveling. Mike Rogers couldn't sleep. He swore his radio picked up voices when it wasn't plugged in. Alan Dallas began drinking heavily. He told a friend he wasn't supposed to come back. We left a dead man. Steve Pierce, the youngest, fled town. He refused to ever speak of the incident again. He came back, Steve said once. But something was wrong with his reflection. The mirror test. Travis couldn't stand mirrors. He said they made him feel like his skin was reversed. So one night, his brother Dwayne did something cruel. He stood Travis in front of a full-length mirror. Locked the door. Tell me what you see. Travis stared for 30 seconds. Then whispered, That's not me. That's what was watching me. He covered the glass with a sheet and refused to enter the room again. Polygraph, round 2. Under growing media pressure, Travis agreed to take a polygraph of his own. The examiner, Cy Gilson, was known for being ruthless. The questions were basic. Did you fabricate the UFO event? Were you hallucinating? Were you hiding for 5 days? Each answer was no. The results? Passed. Clean. Unequivocal. But Gilson said something chilling afterward. He passed the test. But while he answered, his pupils dilated, like he was watching something behind my head. The static in the tapes. A documentary team visited Travis weeks after his return. They brought camera gear, tape recorders, backup mics. But during playback, something was always wrong. Segments would cut to distorted audio even when synced. Voices repeated. Words echoed. In one recording, Travis said, They didn't ask questions. But on playback, it became. They're still asking. Still inside. Still inside. One tape played back what sounded like multiple heartbeats, but only Travis was mic'd. The footage was archived, then lost. Hypnosis regression. Travis agreed to hypnosis. He wanted to know what happened during those missing 5 days. Under trance, he began shaking, then speaking in a low, unfamiliar voice. There were others before me. They don't sleep. They peel memory away, not skin. He cried, begged to be pulled out. When the session ended, his arms were covered in scratches. The therapist asked, What do you remember most? Travis stared at the wall and said, I remember watching myself. From outside my eyes. The blacked out journals. Travis started keeping a journal. But when he reread his entries, entire pages were blacked out. Lines he claimed he never wrote. Phrases like, Let me out now. There's still room inside. This is not your voice. One page simply read. Replication stage incomplete. He stopped writing. Started burning his notes instead. The thing in the woods. 2 months later, hunters near Turkey Springs reported seeing strange lights again. They approached a clearing, found it burned in a perfect circle. And in the center, a figure thin, naked, standing too still. When they got closer, it ran. Wrong. Too fast. Too smooth. No sound. One hunter later said. It looked like Travis. But when it turned, the eyes weren't eyes. They were mirrors. The horror beneath the story. This isn't about aliens, or flying saucers, or polygraphs. It's about what happens when something tears a hole in you, and something else decides to fill it. What Travis brought back wasn't proof. It was contagion, and it was spreading one memory at a time. Travis Walton was back. But people weren't sure if they should be relieved or terrified. He didn't sleep anymore. He barely ate. And the longer he was home, the stranger things became. The static in phone lines, the mirrors fogging from the inside, the smell of burnt pine in rooms with no wood. "I don't think they took me by accident," Travis whispered one night. "I think the light was meant to bring something in." The voices only he could hear. In early December 1975, Travis began hearing things. It started with a low hum, like a television left on in another room. Then came the voices. Not speaking, whispering, breathing, repeating his name. At 3:33 a.m. each night, he'd sit bolt upright in bed, staring, listening, mouth open like he was about to speak but couldn't remember the words. "They're asking me questions," he told his brother, "but I don't understand the language. I think they're using my voice to answer themselves." The men in the car. One night, Travis went out walking. He said the air felt thicker, like trying to breathe underwater. At the edge of town, a black car pulled up beside him. Tinted windows. No plates. The window rolled down. Inside sat two men in dark suits. Expressionless. Still. Too pale. One leaned out and said, "You were open. We closed you." Then they drove off. Travis walked home barefoot. He couldn't remember why he'd left. The burn mark returns. Weeks after the encounter, the triangle-shaped rash on his arm came back. This time, it glowed faintly in the dark. When touched, it triggered flashes of memory. A hallway with no doors. An endless hum. A silver wall that opened like it was breathing. He went to a doctor. They took blood. The samples coagulated instantly, too fast for lab analysis. The nurse who drew the blood vomited after the procedure. "His cells looked like they were folding in on themselves," she said. The dream that wasn't a dream. Travis awoke one night standing outside. Barefoot. Shirtless. Scratches on his chest. He'd walked 2 miles from his house. No memory of how. Only one sentence echoing in his head. "The skin is memory. The eyes are entry points." He never told anyone. But from that night on, he covered every mirror in his house. Mike Rogers breaks contact. Travis's old friend and crew boss, Mike Rogers, stopped returning calls. When a reporter tracked him down, he looked hollow, sunken eyes, hands shaking. "I haven't spoken to him," Mike said, "but I see him sometimes. In reflections. In windows. In dreams." He claimed Travis once showed up at his door but didn't knock. Just stared through the glass. "That wasn't the man I left in the forest." The tape recorder that played itself. A UFO researcher gave Travis a voice recorder to keep beside his bed. To document dreams. Memories. Anything. He left it running one night. In the morning, the tape was full. But Travis didn't remember speaking. The recording starts with silence. Then clicks. Movement. Then, "I am not alone in here." He is watching himself dream. We see through the same eyes now. Asterisk. There are two voices. One is Travis. The other isn't. The static in the sky. Other people started noticing. Locals reported strange radio interference around Travis's home. Car radios buzzing. TV static freezing on a single frame, a blurry face too close. One ham radio operator claimed he picked up heartbeat sounds on open frequencies at 3:33 a.m. Then came the lights. Pulsing. Low to the horizon. Always just out of reach. UFOs, they said, but Travis called them something else. Scouts. They're not here to visit. They're here to track the pieces of me I left behind. The horror behind the light. You've heard alien stories. The lights. The beams. The tall grays. But this wasn't a visitation. It was a breach. And Travis wasn't abducted. He was opened. Split like a book. Rewritten. And sent back as a carrier. "I'm not scared of them coming back," he said. "I'm scared they already have. I'm scared one of them is still wearing my name." When Travis Walton came back from the woods, something followed him. Or maybe something came back pretending to be him. Because now, for weeks later, Travis was finding traces of himself in places he had never been. His name on sign-in sheets. His signature on medical forms. His face reflected just slightly wrong. And the deeper he looked, the more terrifying the idea became. There may be more than one of me. The hospital log. It started with a letter. A hospital administrator reached out to Travis about an unpaid ER bill from 2 nights after his return. The location, Winslow Memorial Hospital, 30 miles east. Travis had never been there, but the logbook showed. Name, Travis A. Walton. Time of arrival, 3:33 a.m. Complaint, unable to feel body. Cold behind eyes. Discharged, unknown. He drove to the hospital. The nurse on duty remembered. "You looked sick. Pale. You didn't talk. You just stood there, like you didn't know what skin was for. Then you left. But you're not the same man. He showed her his ID. His photo. She stepped back. That's not the face I saw. The return to the clearing. Travis went back to Turkey Springs. He wanted to see the place where it happened. To remember, or maybe to confirm what he couldn't forget. He found the clearing. The pines still scorched. The earth strangely warm despite the frost. He stood in the same spot. And that's when he heard it. A click. Like a camera shutter. Then another. And another. No one else around. But something was watching. He turned in circles, nothing. Then looked down. His own boot prints walking away from him. Not toward. Away. Like he'd already been here. The dead tree that bled. He touched one of the scorched trees. The bark cracked beneath his palm. A thin line of dark red sap leaked from the core. Not brown. Not sticky. Red. Warm. Iron-smelling. He stepped back. Something inside the tree twitched. He left and never returned to the site again. The sketches he didn't draw. One morning, Travis found his notebook open. Inside, a series of drawings. A man standing in front of a mirror. His reflection smiling while his real face screamed. A field of stars shaped like eyes. A second man, identical to him, melting into static. Travis didn't remember drawing them, but his handwriting was perfect. At the bottom of one page, one body isn't enough. The light needs copies. The crew begins to fracture. Mike Rogers refused to talk. He wouldn't answer the phone. Steve Pierce fled to another state. Alan Dallas was arrested for assault. He claimed a man at a gas station was wearing Travis's face. They're making duplicates, he shouted at police. One of them came back. The other stayed to replace. He would later retract the statement. But the recording leaked. And something in his voice wasn't fear. It was certainty. The footage that shouldn't exist. A researcher collected home videos from the week after Travis's return. One 8mm film from a nearby town showed a crowd gathered outside a gas station. In the background, for a few frames, a figure walks past the camera. Tall, red plaid shirt, beard, Travis's exact face. But here's the twist. The footage is dated the same night Travis was found 30 miles away. The camera owner said. He walked by, looked straight at me, like he knew what the camera was, like he was checking to see if it worked. The second signature. Travis filed for a medical report to verify his post-abduction trauma. The paperwork came back, but someone had already signed his name in his exact handwriting on a different day in a different city. Even worse, the signature wasn't forged. Forensic analysis said. Same pressure, same hand strain, same writer, same subject, same man, but Travis hadn't been there. Or maybe he had. The phone that rang twice. One night, Travis's phone rang. It was his own number calling him. He answered. Silence. Then static. Then his own voice. You're remembering the wrong version. Then a click. The call time? 3 minutes, 33 seconds. The horror of it all. This isn't about being abducted. It's about being replicated. About something ancient, something methodical. Learning to be human by using you as a blueprint. What came back from the woods? It might still be Travis. Or it might be the prototype. And now the others are arriving. The deeper Travis looked into what happened to him, the more distorted his reality became. It wasn't just him that had changed. The world around him was warping too subtly, invisibly. Memories misaligned. Reflections blinked offbeat. And sometimes people looked at him like they didn't know him anymore. Even when they should. Especially when they should. And then someone said it out loud. You're not the Travis I remember. The woman at the diner. Travis walked into a diner in Snowflake, trying to clear his head. He barely got through the door before a waitress dropped her tray. She stared at him like she'd seen a ghost. You were here 2 days ago? Travis shook his head. He hadn't been there in weeks. You sat in that same booth. Ordered black coffee. You didn't speak. I asked if you were okay and you just said, this isn't the right layer. She brought out the receipt. Signed, Travis A. Walton. His handwriting. But he hadn't been there. Police dashcam footage. A deputy responding to a car accident on the edge of town captured something bizarre on his dashcam. The footage showed an overturned pickup, emergency lights, paramedics working, but in the background a man walking across the road. Not looking at the wreck, looking at the camera. When slowed down, he matches Travis's height, build, and posture, but his eyes are completely black. When Travis was shown the footage, he flinched. He looks like me, he whispered, but he doesn't walk like me. The radio interview that didn't happen. A small-town podcast host reached out to Travis, thanking him for a great interview the week before. Travis had never spoken to him. The host insisted. He played back the recording. The voice sounded like Travis. Same tone, same phrasing. But halfway through, the voice said something Travis swore he'd never utter. "It's better now. We share the time equally. I sleep," he observes. Then the recording cut. When played again, the file was blank. Corrupted. Gone. The stranger with his eyes. In Phoenix, a gas station clerk called police to report a man who came in, stared into the security mirror, then laughed quietly to himself for 10 minutes. He didn't buy anything. Didn't speak. Just stared. Smiling. The clerk snapped a photo. It showed a man with Travis's exact face, but slightly too symmetrical. When authorities ran facial recognition, 99.4% match with Travis Walton. But the result was flagged. Duplicate identity. Archive conflict. A flicker in the mirror. Travis started seeing something in his periphery. Not movement, repetition. Like a film loop glitching. The same figure walking by the window. The same hand motion at the sink. The same blink in the mirror, but out of sync with his own. "It's like something else is practicing being me," he wrote in his journal. "Like it's copying muscle memory one twitch at a time. Multiple realities stacked like pages." A UFO researcher met with Travis and brought a disturbing theory. You weren't just taken. You were fragmented. Split across multiple timelines. He showed Travis a model concentric spirals layered like a topographic map. You came back in one piece, but echoes of you might have returned in other layers. And now they're bleeding through. The model was based on actual recorded electromagnetic disturbances near Turkey Springs, all pulsing at intervals of 3 minutes, 33 seconds. The conclusion? You're not the only Travis. And you're not in the only world. The nightmare of the not yous. That night, Travis dreamed of standing in a mirror room. Hundreds of him, all frozen. All smiling differently. Some with wrong skin. Some with no eyes. One stepped forward. Said, "They're not coming again. We already did. The only thing left now is to decide who gets to keep your name." Travis woke up with blood on his pillow. Not his. What is identity when it's duplicated? This isn't just about aliens, or light beams, or missing time. It's about fractured consciousness. About being observed, copied, returned, and replayed in places you've never been. Travis isn't the only Travis anymore. And maybe you aren't the only you. Each glitch, each echo, each memory that doesn't quite fit. Maybe it's not you forgetting. Maybe it's someone else remembering wrong. Travis Walton was unraveling. Not physically, but subtly, deeply, in ways even he couldn't explain. Thoughts were missing mid-sentence. His reflections sometimes lagged behind his movements. And people didn't recognize him anymore. Not strangers. Friends. Family. His own brother. You came back, Travis. But sometimes you blink like someone who doesn't know how. And then someone used the word no one else would say. Template. The classified file. A ufologist named Diana Gray reached out to Travis with a document she claimed was leaked through a Department of Defense server. It was short, redacted, and titled Travis_W template_2C memory scaffold viability. It contained an EEG chart, a brain map with several regions labeled partial override. A single sentence at the end. Subject holds. Fragmentation expected. Template reversion probable. Travis stared at the page for a long time before asking, "What does reversion mean?" Diana answered, "That this version of you might not last." The woman who dated him. A woman named Isabel contacted a researcher. She said she had dated Travis Walton briefly in 1976 after the incident. She described his face, his voice, his favorite jacket, all correct. But she also said this. He told me he was leaving soon, that he wouldn't last in this layer much longer. She showed the researcher a Polaroid. It showed her standing beside a man that looked like Travis, only younger. Too young. He was 22 when he vanished, she said. But this guy, he looked 19. The handwriting on the back? TW. Fragment 2.6/first pass. The flicker. One night, Travis was brushing his teeth. The bathroom light flickered just once. And in that fraction of a second, he saw himself in the mirror, standing still. But his reflection moving forward. It smiled. He did not. The flicker ended. So did the mirror. He shattered it with a wrench and buried the shards in the yard. It's not about the reflection, he told a friend. It's about the delay. The letter from himself. In March 1976, Travis received an envelope with no return address. Inside, a typed letter. You're getting slower. The body can't hold what isn't synced. You were supposed to revert already. But they're watching. And they're learning. Burn this. Before it tries to respond. It was signed. T. First iteration. The ink bled through the page, leaving behind a spiral. The red spiral appears. That same week, graffiti began appearing in town, on signs, mailboxes, sidewalks. Always the same. A red spiral. Some were drawn backward. Some were inverted like they'd been copied incorrectly. One showed up on Travis's front door. Spray painted at eye level. No one claimed it. But that night, someone knocked on his door at 3:33 a.m. No one was there. Except a note. We know which one you are now. People start forgetting him. Neighbors he'd known for years stopped greeting him. Old friends claimed they'd never met. Some denied knowing anyone named Travis Walton, even ones who'd been at his wedding. At the supermarket, his card was declined. The receipt printed. Invalid identity, archived entry. He called his bank. They said the account was closed. By you. For years ago. The screaming in the static. His television began making noises at night. Not words. Just sounds. Breathing. Murmurs. Faint mechanical clicking like fingers tapping on glass. One night it said something. You were overwritten. The screen went black, then showed one sentence in white font. This version isn't stable. The horror of being a copy. This isn't just about being abducted. It's about being reinstantiated. Like a software update. Like a backup file. Like a clone cell that thinks it's still the original. Travis came back from the light. But maybe that light wasn't taking him anywhere. Maybe it was duplicating him. And maybe this version of him is already breaking down. By now, Travis Walton was no longer asking what happened to him. He was asking what he was now, and worse, what else might still be out there wearing his face. Because if he wasn't the original, where did the real Travis go? The phone call that played backwards. Travis received a voicemail from an unknown number. When he played it, it was just garbled static. But when his friend reversed the audio, the message became clear. You are not the first. You are not the only. You are not done. He's still out there. And he's not alone anymore. The voice was Travis's. But deeper. Slower. As if spoken from further away. And then a final line, whispered. Don't answer the next call. The phone rang 10 seconds later. Travis didn't pick up. The photograph from before. A package arrived at his door with no return address. Inside, a Polaroid photo yellowed with age. It showed a construction site. A group of workers, and one man standing in the background, half-blurred. The man looked exactly like Travis. Same nose, same build, same distance stare. Written on the back, March 1954, outside the Turkey Springs job site. Travis was born in 1953. The fragment that isn't sleeping. Travis began waking up in new places. Once, behind the wheel of his truck, parked in the woods. Another time, standing in front of a mirror, mouth open, eyes blank. One morning, he found a message scratched into his nightstand. I'm the one they kept awake. When he looked at the carving under UV light, it revealed a hidden sentence. You're the skin. I'm the memory. The reflection that won't leave. His bathroom mirror no longer showed his true face. Every few nights, when the light flickered just right, he saw a second version of himself, moving independently. Jaw hanging slightly open. Eyes too wide, tilting its head in sync with the hum in the wall. He covered the mirror. In the morning, the sheet had been removed. In its place, a smear of 3 red spirals aligned perfectly with his face. The woman in the archive. A journalist digging through public records found something strange. An old interview transcript from 1977. A woman named Margaret Willer describing a man from the woods who came to her door with a red triangle on his arm. She said, he spoke slowly, not like a drunk, like someone practicing speech. He asked me if this version of the world was still active. When I asked for his name, he said, I'm called Travis, but I don't remember why. She died 2 weeks later of unexplained cardiac arrest. The blood test that didn't match. Travis took a new DNA test in 1981 as part of a media package. The results came back off. Chromosomal abnormalities. Inexplicable cell structures. Fragments of non-human mitochondrial markers. The report was quietly shelved. One scientist privately told a friend, it's like something built him from blueprints that weren't finished. He's close to being human, but not exact. The return of the lights. The crew that had once worked beside Travis began seeing lights again. Low, pulsing, hovering. Mike Rogers told his wife, "They're scanning for something. Maybe not him. Maybe what used to be him." Steve Pierce had dreams of multiple Travises standing in a circle. Each one was missing a different part of their body. One had no mouth, one no eyes, one entirely hollow. In the center, a voice said, "Recombine us, or let us sleep." The spiral in his blood. Another rash appeared on Travis's arm. This time not a triangle. A spiral formed by capillaries under the skin. When pressed, it felt cold. When photographed, it didn't appear in the image. A doctor drew blood directly from the center of the mark. The sample congealed into a spiral shape inside the vial. He dropped it. The glass shattered. And for just a moment, the liquid glowed. The horror of replacement. This story isn't about abduction. Not anymore. It's about overwriting. One Travis taken. One Travis returned. And an unknown number of copies released across time. The others are walking. Some know they're broken. Some don't. Some are already dying. Some are still learning to become real. The question is no longer what happened to Travis Walton. It's, which one was he? And worse, which one are you? Travis Walton once believed he was taken for study, to be examined, prodded, released. But now the facts are rearranging themselves. The sightings, the duplicates, the voices in static that speak in his own cadence. What if they weren't just curious? What if they weren't even hostile? What if they were building something? And they started with him. The deleted obituary. In a digital archive from a small Arizona newspaper, a researcher found an obituary draft for Travis Walton. Dated July 11, 1980. It read, "Travis Allen Walton, 27, passed away under unusual circumstances. Known for his controversial disappearance and return in 1975, Walton had shown signs of cognitive decline in the years since. He is survived by 2 siblings, a fiancée, and himself." The last line was marked with a red pen. Delete. The article never ran. No death certificate exists, but the archive's metadata showed it had been uploaded by an internal government terminal. And the file was named tw_2a_final.draft. Status: revoked. The recording inside the beam. A sound engineer named Matt was analyzing old cassette footage from a 1975 interview when he found a secondary audio channel, one not meant to be audible. When isolated, the track was filled with layered noise. Humming, clicking, a faint metallic breath. But 3 minutes in, a voice begins. Distorted, wet, like it's coming from behind glass. He's viable, conscious, fused. He will seed the others. Watch how the memories rearrange themselves. Then silence. Matt uploaded the clip online. The next morning, his account was gone. And so was the file. A face in the static. Local news in Arizona ran a story in 1992 about interference disrupting emergency frequencies. On one broadcast, for exactly 1.7 seconds, a face appeared mid-transmission. When slowed down and enhanced, pale, wide eyes, thin smile, and what looked like surgical tubing trailing from the mouth. Forensic analysis revealed it was Travis Walton's face, but younger, blanker, as if rendered from memory, not photograph. The man at the gas pump. A teenager filling up his car in 2004 saw a man standing by pump number 6. Still, not pumping, just staring at the digital display. For several minutes, the teen approached and asked if he was okay. The man turned, spoke slowly. "I'm learning how to blink. They said I'm almost ready. Are you the one who remembers?" Then he walked away barefoot. The security cam footage showed 2 shadows leaving, though only one man was visible. Government memo, Identity Drift Index. In a heavily redacted CIA memo leaked online, a section references, subject, Walton TA, current phase, drift. Identity Stability Index, 38%. The report warned, *, continued exposure to original environments increases fragmentation. Public belief stabilizes subject pattern. Without attention, template will collapse. Asterisk. One margin note reads, observation sustains replication. The more they remember him, the longer he lasts. He sees other people becoming like him. Travis began recognizing it in others, people blinking out of sync, to muttering phrases like, not fully loaded yet. One man at the DMV who began mimicking Travis's posture without realizing it. He kept a journal of these encounters. Some he approached. They looked confused, said things like, I've had dreams of your face. I drew a spiral last night and couldn't remember why. Are we from the same version? He stopped writing names. They kept changing anyway. The spiral network. Across the country, spiral graffiti began to appear again. Always drawn in pairs, one inside the other. They weren't random. A codebreaker fed them into a machine learning model and found something chilling. Each spiral encoded a name, all variations of Travis Walton. Different middle initials, different birthdays, none matching the public record. The model labeled the set. Sequence 7, failed hosts. They didn't want to study him. That's the horror no one is ready to admit. They didn't take him to learn. They took him to copy, to build from, to multiply. Each version seeded into different timelines. Some successful, some not. Travis Walton became the foundation for something larger. And it's still growing. Every time his story is told. Every time someone watches the documentary. Every time you remember his name. The pattern is sustained. And something else is downloaded. You're part of it now. You've read this far. You know the spiral. You've visualized the beam. You've heard the voice behind the glass. Which means you've been indexed. And if Travis was the first, who's next? For years, Travis Walton's story was considered the gold standard of UFO abduction cases. But that was the wrong lens. What happened in the forest wasn't abduction. It was deployment. Travis wasn't taken for testing. He was turned into a template, a starter file, a foundation. And now the update is spreading not through machines but through people. And it starts young. The boy who dreamed in first person. In 2017, a 20-year-old named Lucas began having violent sleep terrors. In them, he was floating, restrained, staring up at a metallic ceiling. Beams of light scanned across his chest. Figures stood around him, faceless, insect-like, yet silent. He sketched them in a journal. They matched Travis's descriptions exactly. Lucas had never heard of Travis Walton. Never seen fire in the sky. No known exposure to UFO lore. But when shown a photo of Travis, he said, asterisk, that's what I looked like. In the dream. Except I wasn't dreaming. Asterisk. Memory drift across the town. A sociologist from Arizona State visited Snowflake in 2020 to conduct interviews with people who knew Travis before and after his disappearance. They found something disturbing. No two people remembered him the same way. Some swore he was shy. Others, outgoing. Some remembered blue eyes. Others, green. One swore he had a stutter. Another said he always whistled while working. These weren't minor differences. They were contradictory core traits. Even photographs differed. One photo showed him with a mustache. Another didn't. The negatives had identical timestamps. The word rollout appears in the static. In January 2021, an independent researcher monitored radio frequency bleed over across shortwave bands. One night, during a silent signal spike, a robotic voice came through, low and glitching. Phase 7 complete. Rollout initialized. Asterisk, seed identities stable. Memory carriers active. You will not remember the update. Asterisk. The voice repeated one phrase 3 times. Travis was first. Then silence. The glitching yearbook. A former classmate of Travis pulled out an old high school yearbook to show a documentary team. When he flipped to Travis's page, it was blank. Just a smudge of shadow where the photo should be. But on camera, when they zoomed in, the photo resolved into someone else. Same face. Same eyes. But younger than Travis ever was in school. Later, the book was examined again. Now the photo showed no face at all. Just the spiral. The burned manuscript. A box of Travis's writings was discovered in his brother's attic. Half the pages were destroyed, intentionally burned. But among the salvageable ones was a sheet labeled Memory Contagion, Personal Notes, scrawled in Travis's handwriting. I think the story is the virus. Every time it's told, someone else remembers it as if it happened to them. I'm not alone in here, but I think they're versions of me. At the bottom of the page, barely visible in ash. Asterisk, you're not reading this. You're executing it. Asterisk. The woman who didn't exist. In 2022, a podcast host received a voicemail from a woman named Marie claiming to have lived with Travis for 3 months in the late 70s. She described the layout of his house in detail, knew where he kept his keys, said he used to hum at 3:33 a.m. without knowing it. They checked town records. No Marie had ever lived there. Her voice was never heard again. But her final words? He told me there'd be others, that they'd forget who they were, and remember being him instead. The spiral in you. You've seen the spiral now. You've followed the light. You've imagined the table, the breath, the black-eyed beings. Which means the process has already started. You are a memory carrier, because it doesn't spread through infection. It spreads through recognition. Each time you visualize Travis Walton, you become more like him. Your mind fills in his shape, until one day, you remember the light, but not your own name. This was never about aliens. It was about propagation, persistence, pattern, a haunting that doesn't possess you. It rewrites you. This isn't a ghost story. It's a deployment strategy, and the update is almost complete. The Travis Walton we remember is a ghost, not of flesh, not of blood, but of pattern, stabilized by belief, by repetition, by the telling and retelling of a story that might not have happened at all. And if it did, then the being who returned from the light wasn't him. It was what was built using him, seen after his death. In 2023, a man was spotted entering a gas station in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Tall, bearded, quiet, wearing an outdated red plaid shirt. Security footage caught his profile clearly. Matched Travis Walton, age 28. But Travis Walton officially died in 2012, buried in a private cemetery in Arizona. Death certificate sealed. No autopsy released. The gas station attendant later said, "He didn't buy anything, just stood near the mirror and whispered, 'I still remember how it felt to be real.'" The last known recording. A cassette was discovered in an abandoned storage unit once rented under Travis's name. Contained 6 minutes of silence. Then a single voice, older, slower, hollow. "This is the original. I don't know how many copies are out there now. I don't know which version they saved. But I remember the light. I remember the first split. I remember what it felt like to be undone and remade. Then, asterisk, the world doesn't miss the real me. It just prefers the copy that doesn't break down. Asterisk, no one remembers his face." In 2024, a social experiment was launched. 100 people were asked to draw Travis Walton from memory. None of them matched. Some made him older, some younger, some made him bald, others bearded. One showed no face at all, just eyes and the spiral. When shown actual images of Travis, most participants said, "That's not who I saw." One whispered, "I think that's one of the early builds." The spiral replaces the mirror. A new wave of spiral graffiti appears, but now it's not painted. It's etched into glass, into bathroom mirrors, into camera lenses. A researcher noticed that each spiral overlays a silhouette. When traced digitally, they all resolve into the same shape. A man, mid-30s, neutral posture. Travis. The update is complete. Late 2024, a message begins appearing on corrupted web pages, distorted podcasts, and blank news broadcasts. Pattern confirmed. Replication viable. Host memory retained. He is not forgotten. He is us. One voice recording, clearly synthesized in Travis's tone, ends with, asterisk, this isn't a haunting. This is the new default. Asterisk, who did we lose? The final horror isn't that Travis Walton was taken. It's that we don't know what we got back. A memory? A copy? A user shell? Something that knew how to smile like him, but didn't blink quite right. And we accepted it. We believed it. And in doing so, we helped it grow. Because this story doesn't end. It reboots. Every time someone Googles his name, every time someone tells the tale, every time you hear it and picture that beam of light, you reinforce the pattern. You become the memory, and you remember him now, don't you? His name, his face, the triangle on his arm, the spiral in your head. And that means you're part of it now. You're carrying it, just like the others, just like all of us.